If you're anything like me and always looks forward to the next indie darling on your favorite console, it certainly felt like a busy couple of months, and getting attention for indie devs seems to be more and more competitive. There are both long-awaited indie darlings getting sequels and new indies having publisher support to them, both with built-in resources and fan bases to build a community right away. This is of course coupled with mainstream giants competing for attention. And if all of that weren't busy enough... And it's great to see all these games make it to the finish line, but it also makes me aware that a lot of those lesser profile games, like the now ironically named Unsighted, which has started to gain at least a bit of a cult following, but only after the developers tweet about major media outlets ignoring their game went viral. It's even more so considering how small 400 plus reviews are for how f***ing good Unsighted is. But I've got a feeling that game's for another day on this humble channel. Which is exactly part of why I love doing Hidden Gems, as my list of interesting goodies to share grows and grows like a Katamari ball. Word of mouth has always mattered, regardless of whatever buzzword genre or nostalgic art style the game comes with. You might be completely surprised to see what games flew under the radar.
Oh, hi there!
Let's spin my wheel of Hidden Gems to turn to tell us the lesson that we should learn. And one reason I bring up last September is for my first game that was released then, and really shouldn't fly under the radar, with The Gardener and the Wild Vines. It's from Atlanta, Georgia-based Finite Reflection, and according to Steam, it very much flew under the radar. But what will you be missing if you look this one over? Quite a bit. Your character is a gardener working for a fairy tale style prince that he's been in love with for the longest time. You journey to various towers sprouting up around land, where you simply have to reach to the top of the tower to hope your beloved is trapped on the inside. The gameplay mechanic here is that you're able to create a vine surrounding the tower. This leaves giant leaves that you can climb up top, but the main mechanic is cutting different flowers that give you a boost while adding more to the vine. Here you can combo your way to creating a longer and longer vine to be able to advance through each level. When you're able to ascend to a good combo, it comes with this great sense of flow and reaching new heights. It's a rewarding and satisfying game feel when you're able to build more and more to your combo. There's also a high level of variety in its level design, where you'll have to find bowling balls to activate a seesaw, or you'll have to dodge certain obstacles like the not-so-giant enemy crabs, or even the magician giving patterns to throw you off in later levels. Each stage offers something different, showing the designers were very much inspired from a design standpoint. The soundtrack is also a big highlight, offering chill-worthy tracks that have a slight sense of whimsy to them. The OST reminded me of Super Mario Galaxy's chill tracks, specifically the snow level theme, and anytime an indie game can remind me of Super Mario Galaxy, it's doing something right. The game does have its minor flaws. As satisfying in cutting and warping as in the game, each flower has you warp in a specific direction to it. For example, if you're aiming for a flower to the right view, the flower you're warping on has a set path where it goes left, where your instincts in controlling it might want to go in a different direction. It's something I mostly got used to, and I would have liked to see a bit more control in that regard, but for the most part you'll get used to it and still manage to get those killer combos and bring great honor to your house. Then the game is fairly short, taking about 3 hours to beat, but it offers a great amount of extras, like unlockable lovebirds giving its own variety to snag them, challenge levels for each stage including a speedrunning and highest combo challenge, and it even had a launch event challenge where the prize was a physical painting from the achievements section. I played the game through Steam, but the good news is that the game made it on home consoles including the Switch. No announcement in the Xbox Series X or PS5, but the Switch version I can totally vouch for. It controls just as well as the PC version with the same satisfying feeling of climbing up, and it has achievements built in if that's your jam. The Gardener and the Wild Vines gets an easy recommendation from me. It feels great, the presentation is solid, the music is fantastic. For how crowded the gaming space is for September releases, this is one not to pass up. At the Portland Retro Gaming Expo back in 2019, where it was safe to do that kind of thing, I came across an adorable booth for a minimal text game complete with Christmas lights and pink trash cans set up with business cards. It was really cute for the event, but at the same time, all I need to give you is its wonderfully ridiculous pitch. Trash the Planet from studio This Game is Haunted is a clicker game where you organize an army of raccoons to gather as much trash on the planet as possible to eventually take over humanity and their economy. It's a hell of a fun pitch, and if you know indie games, this might sound a bit familiar. Basically, the game has you gather different trash with various progress bars. You'll soon gather enough resources to recruit more raccoons to help find more rubbish to sort it out, which will eventually grant you bonuses and unlockables to build more resources and gather more junk at a faster pace. It's broken up into 2 separate acts where you'll be on the ground setting the right amount of raccoons for maximum efficiency, and the second half of the game where you'll be playing a simplified version of the stock market. Here you'll influence the prices of selling trash until you start earning millions and trillions of dollars. And look, essentially betting on the success of trash that can cause both economic and financial ruin just for the sake of a small profit isn't just the stock market's thing anymore. That's NFT's thing these days. It's a common mistake, just don't touch NFTs. Like ever. This second half does offer a bit of strategy in your tools, such as buying investments on the cheap and then selling them at a profit, boosting up your cash. Both of these acts include a variety of lore moments, like hearing stories from different raccoons and an almost haiku when you're in the first half, and the second half is all text messages from people you've never even met that feel purposefully impersonal. The game features a brutal message against capitalism, and the idea that the first part of your game feels very personal and poetic versus the endless babble of your money-grubbing tech scripts in the second half is a really nice touch. This is also an interesting one with the idea that you can leave the game on running, and you can do other things like browsing different websites while you play. The whole experience is sort of a clicker game, but not as demanding and not constantly testing the strength of your index finger until you may think you're drilling a hole in the desk with all your clicking. Having said that, I'd say the biggest flaw of the game is that the pacing of the story feels like a bit of a slog at times. For the text messaging part, you can click your way past them and speed up the process, but I would have liked the option for your stocks to keep going as you're doing your texting. Regardless of that, I got a lot of enjoyment out of Trash the Planet. The idea is hilarious, the execution is satisfying, giving small strategies to boosting your cash, and the ending packs a punch with how it frames the experience. Oh, and this one's a free download on itch.io, so there's no excuse not to give it a try. Have a garbage day! The shoot-'em-up genre is almost as old as gaming itself, from the first video games in arcades, with a goal that very much carries over to this day.
Keep firing, assholes!
But today I'd like to talk about a trend that I've seen more and more in our dystopic year of 2021 with the dodge-em-up. Set in similar settings of mostly blocks and pixels, the idea is that the flying shapes are one-hit kills where your only defense is to get the hell out of the way. There's a lot in this genre now, with Sound Dodger and Just Shapes and Beats being rock stars here. Or, just the first two I can think of off the top of my head. A gem in the genre that you may or may not have heard of comes from solo developer Tribe Games with Hyperdot. Released in the beginning of 2020, developer Charles McGregor was inspired by both N++'s visual aesthetic for changing colors, and Super Hexagon's frantic nature to create both a chill and challenging game with one of the most steep difficulty curves in recent memory. The beginning levels of the campaign are stupid easy at first, and then it gets to a few tries and I got it, and then it turns to a hair-pulling, controller-breaking, don't play this with your mother because you will be saying expletives of a hard video game. That's the big distinguishing factor between this, Sound Dodger, and Just Shapes and Beats. In the latter two, if you screw up a few times, you can make it through each of the games. There are a few levels with multiple hits available, but for the most part, it's one hit and you start all over again. It's a dodge-em-up for elites out there looking to climb an Everest made of shattered glass at times. But the golden rule for hard games is very true here. All deaths feel like your fault and you'll rightfully want to pick it up and try right back again. And its difficulty isn't the only charm here. McGregor displays a solid variety of levels, from dark rooms and light rooms with a specific power-up in mind, and it has a bunch of extra features like local multiplayer, level editor, and even a bunch of accessibility features. Admittedly, this one is a bit pricey for the type of game that it is, but hey, that's what Steam sales are for. Hyperdot is an impressive solo effort for McGregor, and if you're looking to get your abstract shapes on in a good, challenging game, then good luck! But let's say you want your abstract Zen games to be less psychologically damaging and a little bit more Zen? XOB comes from George Farrell, who goes by Mr. Tedders on the internet, and I'll let you guess which one of those names is on his birth certificate. This one's a deceptively simple puzzle game where you move your block left or right in order to collect dots opening up to the next area. You'll be able to shift gravity completely upside down to have your blocks fall on the opposite side, or you'll move your block to the edge over to shift gravity. You'll either fall into a platform position there, or you'll make a mistake and fall into the endless void. You have to figure out the right path to either get all of the shiny dots to make it to the goal, or simply flip your way to the open door. The full game is available right now on PC and Mac, but I'm really earning my indie cred in saying that I found out about the iPhone version first, which made me really dig the game. It's very easy to make a mistake in seeing how your block will be able to move into the endless void. One wrong step and you'll have to start all over again. The touch controls let you slightly move the screen over to the edge to properly see the direction the block is going to go in. It's really helpful to avoid making a stupid mistake. Now, in all fairness, it does let you do that in the PC version as well, and it's just as helpful. But it feels just a little bit more natural doing it on your phone. Also, playing the game on a PC monitor, you don't really get the whole picture of the screen, as your eyes always go towards your block avatar, and you'll miss out on the poetic typography the game has to offer. That and the right mouse button made me hit the level select screen, which happened a few times when I played it. The mobile version, however, doesn't have that problem, and when playing, you have a much better view of the map to see the poetic typography in each level. The game was simply made for a touchscreen, and for my money, it's easily the better version. And it's actually a little bit cheaper to buy the levels than the computer versions. Admittedly, this is a super simple game where all the variety is found in its level design, but it makes up for it with its style, atmosphere, and those simple messages on each screen. Jordan's past library is very alternative, leaning on the experimental and art house, and XOB's unique take certainly comes from that background. The messages in each level offer a poetic flair, and rotating them gives a little bit more weight to them than you might find in a painting. If Hyperdot is like Pai Mei, forcing you to punch a wooden block until your fists bleed, this is more like a yoga class where you go with your friends and maybe get some hot tea after your workout. Not to say that there isn't challenge in the game, as you might need a little bit of trial and error to get through, but the game won't scream at me for not using chopsticks properly. But I do want to set the right expectations here. This isn't going to completely blow your mind, and I wouldn't call it a must download, otherwise you should throw your phone down the dumpster. But it's neat, it's chill, it's very zen, and it accomplishes exactly what it wants to do. And there's a demo in the App Store to try it before you buy it. So go ahead and download the app on the latest iPhone while listening to Beats by Dre, and even sign up for Apple Fitness Plus with guided meditation, so Apple can send me endorsement checks so I can put a down payment on a Jeff Goldblum statue in every town in the United States. I think we can all get behind that. You may remember last year that I featured a game called Before Your Eyes, which turned out to be one of my favorites from 2021. Feel free to see that if you haven't. Or, don't do that and do what I do and start another cute cat session binge. Aww. But playing that game had me thinking of its lead programmer and lead designer, Bella Messick's, seen here really hoping nature already called for that fox. Before Your Eyes, Bella was part of Buddy System, a small team that he led full of able-bodied writers, audio wizards, or should I say audio wizard apprentices, and artists on a game crowdfunded with Fig.io that only just made its goal back in 2017. One of the stretch goals it didn't make was console support for the final game, but the good news is that they teamed up with publisher RedDeerGames to make its console debut late last year, which for me is a great excuse to talk about Little Bug. The original demo had your main hero Nia, followed by a blue sprite that was actually the spirit of your mother. The adventure would have been your mother's ghost helping you out throughout your journey, but Buddy System spoke with people of color to consult and eventually be brought on as writers, and changed the story where Nia's mom doesn't die but fits a Spirited Away-esque story. Here, Nia being inconsiderate and a bit of a brat in the beginning, and understanding what her mother is going through throughout the journey. The kid is very much in the mindset that she believes that everything is magic, including a dead kitty she finds along with some random junk that act as collectibles. There's a little bit more to that, and the gameplay reflects it well. How you come in as a player is through platforming, where instead of jumping, your blue sprite is controlled with one of the analog sticks and can pull Nia, allowing her to travel throughout the game. You don't have a jump button, but instead you use the momentum of your pulls to get through. It does take some getting used to, but there's a great sense of freedom when you swing just right, and the Xbox version I played feels just as satisfying. The game even comes with some challenge levels to test your inner Tarzan, which is a nice addition. The level design mixes it up and shows creativity on the part of the developers, and admittedly some of the later levels might be a bit trial and error on your part to get through, but once you figure out how to get you and your Tinkerbell forward, it's well balanced and offers a solid challenge. I got the game through itch.io, or itch.io if you want to sound neat, and if you bought 2020's bundle for racial justice and equality, then good news, you already have the game. Otherwise it just goes for $5 on the computer, but as long as I'm offering you consumer advice, the console versions are a bit more expensive and don't really offer a lot of significant changes or differences. But there's always wishlisting and sales, and the Xbox has achievements if that's your jam. However you play it, this one's very much a diamond in the rough that has a fun, well thought out story with a great game feel. Now let's just hope that collecting dead animals is just part of the game's lore, and that fox from earlier doesn't turn up in a suitcase or something. And the moral of today's story is, bad luck and extreme misfortune will infest your pathetic soul for all eternity. Whoops, wrong 90s show reference. I hope you found a new little gem to add to your collection. Feel free to check out the previous episodes for more indie gems to sink your teeth into. And if you'd like to support the show, feel free to do the usual thing of liking, subscribing, hitting the bell, and sharing on your social media, because sharing is caring. Thank you very much for watching, and have a fantastic day.